Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our discussion on creating, revising, and tracking the status of proposals in Design Manager. My name is Brad, and I'll be hosting the demonstration today. If you have questions during the webinar, feel free to enter them into the questions pane under GoToWebinar panel. If the question is outside of the scope of today's discussion, please email them to support@designmanager.com. And lastly, if you miss a portion of the webinar or want to review any of our past discussions, go to our YouTube channel at Design Manager Inc., Design Manager INC. And here you can see a complete listing of all sorts of topics, including short quick start videos, helpful tutorials, and comprehensive webinars, which we categorize into our project management and accounting courses, along with all of our weekly webinars as well. Okay, let's get started. Now, proposals or estimates represent the agreed upon goods and services that you'll provide your client. There's a tremendous amount of flexibility of implementing proposals in Design Manager, and following a common theme in these discussions, establishing an overall methodology for creating and organizing your proposals is a critical first step for really having best practices in Design Manager. Now, there are several approaches of effectively proposing the scope of goods and services to the client, all of which have some benefits and some limitations. Some popular methods include, you could create a proposal for an entire project. So basically, this becomes a single agreement for all the goods and services clearly laid out for the client and can almost work as a de facto contract as well. Now, a limitation here would be there's going to be usually many edits in the proposal, as the more items increase the probability of cancellations, rejections, alterations, etc. The large scope of the proposal just necessitates more revisions than some of the other methods I'll describe momentarily. Now, most commonly, users are going to create proposals based upon locations or phases within the projects. And you could have proposals based on physical locations, dining room, bedroom, etc., or you could even create them in phases or chronological order. Now, the benefit here is that the goods and services are easily understandable and logically compartmentalized to the client. They're going to understand kitchen, master bedroom, great room, etc., or they're going to understand that this is phase one, and that's going to encompass these agreed upon goods and services, phase two, etc. Now, as you have more proposals, it's going to require some more oversight, as several phases could be overlapping as the items are in various stages of the design process across proposals. Different proposals may span the similar physical locations within the project. So you could have a proposal that has some of the kitchen goods and services and a second proposal having the remainder. You even have an option to create a proposal for each item in the project. Now, in this case, the item becomes its own, call it micro project, and can be easily, conveniently monitored throughout the entire design cycle. And the client effectively approves each item individually. Now, obviously, this is going to have the most overhead because you're going to have scores or hundreds of items in a project, and therefore an equal number of proposals to be monitored separately. So I've had clients do all of the above. They've selected one methodology, they've changed. It's all dependent upon their philosophy of the design process and what their clients really individually prefer as well. Now, once we've decided upon the proposal strategy for the project, the next step would be to obviously begin inputting the specifications for the goods that we're going to be providing the client. Now, since this webinar is focusing on proposals themselves, we're going to use existing specifications to keep ourselves on schedule. If you have questions on entering specifications, again, go to our YouTube channel and review tutorials such as entering an item, entering a component, etc., as shown here as an example. All right, now let's begin exploring the process of creating proposals, and I'm going to pay particular attention to some often overlooked features. Proposals are accessed from the Project tab by clicking the Proposals button. You can type the desired project. You could select it off of the project search, however you'd like. Let's focus on the Hilson Pocono home. Upon selecting or entering the project, I'm going to see all of the proposals that I've previously created before. Now, there's lots of information available for review on this window, but let's work our way through the proposal process, as much of what we see here is going to become clearer to us upon doing so. Now, the first step in making a proposal would be to add or create the proposal. And to do so is very simple. Just click the Add button in the bottom left corner. And that brings us to our New Proposal window. Right here on our Proposal Items grid, we're going to see all of the items in the project that are not currently on a previous proposal and not designated as complete or inactive. So we can see items from our outdoor living area and our wine cellar. But to contrast, if we look on our project specifications for our Hilson project, we can see I have additional items in my game room, but these have all been proposed before. So by default, Design Manager is going to try to keep our proposal items grid as concise and as relevant as possible, so it's going to not show those items by default. Further, it's never going to show items that are complete or inactive. So in the case of, let's take a look at a different project. Our Carter's Brigantine Beach home. Any item that's marked as inactive or complete won't show on the new proposal window at all. So if you're trying to find a particular item, it's not appearing on that window, always check your specifications and look for all items and then focus on the ones that are designated as inactive or complete. And odds are that's where, that's the situation that's preventing it from showing on that window. Okay, now let's focus on some of the information available to enter and review on our new proposal window. Starting with the name or phase. Now notice that defaults down from the project name, but the majority of users that I work with, they leave it as such. But quite honestly, best practices suggest that we should not. Use something a bit indicative of what the proposal comprises, so you don't need to reprint the document to see what's on the proposal. For example, we can see there's our name or phase, and my previous proposal, I've renamed it as Game Room. So in this case, I may call it Outdoor Living Area. And again, you could call it Phase 2, Master Bedroom and Great Room, what have you. Whatever's going to be indicative to yourself, so you know quite quickly what's going to be comprised on that proposal itself. Okay, the date defaults to today's date. That's just fine. You can certainly change it. Important to note, the proposal itself has no fiscal activity. It's just an estimate, or it's the beginning of the design process with the client. There's no accounting that goes along with the proposal. Now, I could leave as such. I could certainly use my search and change the proposal. I could change the date. Let's move that to tomorrow, for example. Now we have our style or format selection, and Design Manager has a wide variety of formats for you to choose from. So let's take a look at some of them, what's available for us. And I'll quickly go through these. There are three major proposal or estimate types themselves. First is the residential, which has a very almost personal correspondence appearance to it. Then there is the commercial, has your classic grid columns with a very almost statement-like appearance to it. And then we have the modern format, which is my preferred format. That's the most contemporary of all of the various document styles, but to each his own, and everyone can select their own style or format. You can set these as defaults, but you can change them and reprint them as the client dictates, or as your various needs may dictate as well. Now also notice that each of the various styles have a few additional formats as well. First is the with deposit format. Now, The residential or commercial by themselves will summate or total the entire requested deposit amount and put it in the totals region or at the bottom of the document. The with deposit option will then show an additional column that shows the requested deposit amount on each of the particular items. And as you can see, all of ours are listed there. So the client's going to receive that format and say, oh, this is how much I owe. I'm currently being asked to present for each individualized item. There's also the group pricing only format of each of the three major categories of styles of our estimates. In that case, when you're using the Design Manager groups, individual item prices will not be displayed, simply the group total itself. Now, our modern formats have even some additional options. We have the no pricing modern format. That's going to simply list each item with its description, quantity, and unit of measure, and optionally the image or picture associated with it without any pricing. It gives you a chance to present the design concepts without yet having formalized what the pricing would be per se. We also have a few additional documents such as the specification sheets in both the classic and modern format and the bid specification in both classic and modern format as well. Now, those two documents are very stylized and have additional information that they're required. So we felt that they deserve their own discussion as well. And that can be seen on our bid specifications and spec sheet documents, again, on our YouTube channel. Lastly, there's even a tear sheet selection. In this format, you're going to have a very large professional image displayed for the item, the project, of course, the location, a few lines of the description, and again, no pricing on that as well. So a wide variety of formats that could be selected. That was a very brief description of some of those formats. So again, back on our YouTube channel, I go into much greater detail about all of those on our document styles and options webinar as well. So you can get a much greater feel for some of those different formats and what they present. And for example, there's an image of our tear sheet there on that screenshot. Okay, so let's get back and I'll select our modern format. Now, our other options, as I said, you can optionally show the image of the item if entered on the proposal documents themselves with the picture selection, and you can see there's a thumbnail image on the window, the new proposal window itself. That is optional as well. Some users prefer not to have those being displayed for them. You can control that by going to File, User Settings, and you can see an option for Show Image, Item Image Thumbnails. If that's unchecked, you'll no longer have the column on your proposal window and other windows as well. The Show All option. As I indicated before, the new proposal window is only showing items not inactive, not complete, and not include on a previous proposal. If I do select the Show All option, I'm going to have a new column displayed for already proposed, which will show those items that have been included on a prior proposal. So I can see that item reference 9 in the game room was previously on proposal 1 dated 1/17/2020, along with all the other items in the game room as well. But recall, the Show All still will not show items marked as inactive or complete. So like I said, if you can't find the item, go back to the specifications and review those settings. So speaking of our columns, let's quickly go over what information is displayed here. So we had the tag column, which we'll get into momentarily. When using the Show All, you'll see the already proposed column be displayed. If there's no information in the already proposed, well, it means it's not yet been included on a proposal. There's a location, code, and name. The specification code or spec code, if you make spec books or those types of things, that would be listed here for you. The internal reference number within the project of the item. We already discussed the image thumbnails, the description, the total proposal price, the status of the item, along with the pricing breakdown. So we can see the price for the merchandise, price for the freight, installation, labor, design fee, etc., all individually broken up, which of course would then summate into the proposal price itself. We can see the requested deposit amount, the quantity, and even the sales tax listed for us here. So quite a bit of information and pretty much everything that's relevant to the item as far as making a proposal itself. Now, I like to keep my list nice and tidy, so I often work without the show all on, so I can focus just upon the items that I want to review or need to include on a proposal itself. Further, besides the columns, you can sort by nearly any column. I could sort by reference number, I could sort by description, I could even jump down, just start typing the few characters of the description, and Design Manager will jump right down to it. Now, one thing about sorting, when you are showing all, items that are not proposed are always going to be at the top. So even if I'm sorted by reference number, I can see, or description as a better example, I can see items that have a higher alphabetic standing that should be at the top, but because they're on a proposal already, they're always going to be at the bottom. So the sorting is always predicated by if it's on a proposal or not. That does tend to trip up some people sometimes, so that's what the differential is there. But even when I'm in proposal order at the bottom, I'm still sorted by description in this case, as you can see, alphabetically. Okay, let's turn off our show all. Now, this is our proposal tab. There's also another area for more information on the remarks tab. Here's where I can have any proposal remarks listed. These come down from the project settings themselves, so all proposals will inherit that from the way the project is configured, as we'll see momentarily. I could add to this very simply. Perhaps I have some more information to communicate to the client. I've actually created some additional proposal remarks in my remarks glossary. So I may have several pieces of information that I repetitively communicate to my clients, so I can create them from my remarks glossary, which is on your list in glossaries right there, and then input them as desired. And notice that I've coded them as, purchase orders or proposal, etc. So just by selecting the remark and hitting choose, I throw it right into my proposal for this particular client. It keeps all of your communication very standardized and allows you to quickly grab information that is pertinent to the proposal without retyping it time and time again. Speaking of those advanced options, we can get there from here as well. Notice the advanced button in the bottom left. If I click that, it jumps right to my project advanced options for our Hilson Pocono home. All of these settings also inherit down. What does that mean? Well, you can configure the appearance and certain stylistic changes to your proposals at the company level by going to File, Company Information and Settings. Which gets us to our very important company information window. The advanced button here brings us not to our project advanced options, but our company advanced options. And we have a very similar looking window for all of our proposal settings here. All the information that I have configured here defaults down to all of my new projects as I create them. And then on the project, I can customize it for any of my clients' particular needs as well. Now, there's lots of interesting options and settings here, which the help does describe in great detail. Just click the question mark along the bottom toolbar. It's going to jump you right to the appropriate window, and you can see that all of this is documented, so you can review that at your leisure, or if you have any questions about those fields, a quick way to get your answer. Now, the vast majority of these settings are used to configure the format of the proposal document, which I just said, again, to both your company's and your client's preference, and as such are covered in great detail in the document styles and options webinar that we just discussed. So take a look at that and you can see all of the information that is on that window. But there are two particular options that I want to cover right here, and they are the single item proposal option. Now, going back to the beginning of our discussion, I mentioned that you may want to have a proposal created for each individual item. If that's your design process, the single item proposal option will allow you to immediately generate those individual proposals without having to do it one at a time. I could select as many items as I want from on my new proposal window, hit OK, and Design Manager will generate an individual proposal for them automatically for you. Really a big, huge time saver if that is your methodology. The other option is allow one proposal per item. What this selection does is it will prevent a user from including an item on a proposal if it's already been proposed. In other words, it prevents them from having an item on multiple proposals. Some firms deem that undesirable, and by selecting that option, it's going to prevent an item from doing so. Now, that will prohibit you from creating perhaps 2 or 3 different proposals with several options that may have the same item on them. So it's a little bit of a balance there, but that's how you can control it as well. Okay, to close our advanced options, back on our new proposal window remarks tab, we'll hop back to the main proposal tab. Even more functionality is available to us here as well. Now, let's say you notice a spelling error on one of your items, or price is incorrect, and you want to adjust it. Now, you don't have to exit out of your proposal window, go back to your specifications, put in your project, and make your edits. You can make changes right from here as well. So I can select an item and hit the Edit Item button, or I could just double click as well. And what's going to happen is I'm going to jump right to my item window. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at our sofa here. Perhaps I noticed that my price to the client is incorrect. Just by double clicking, Design Manager is going to bring up the item window for item 5 within that project. And let's say that I noticed the price was incorrect, and it should be $11.05 versus $9.75. Make my change, click OK, and Design Manager is automatically going to update that for me right here. Same with catching a spelling error. I don't want a char, I might want a chair instead. So I can just hit edit, make my change, and there I go. And perhaps there's installation or another full component type that I missed, freight, something along those lines. I could add that as well. How about we add some installation? Let's say that's 150. And now my installation updates as well. So you have a wide variety. You can do all the changes that you do traditionally in your specifications window right from your new proposal window as well. So there's really no disassociation. You're just using the program to its fullest capabilities there. So great, lots of information about the window itself, but really, how do we make our proposal? It all comes to selecting or tagging the items we want included on the proposal at this time. So I could manually select or tag an item. By doing so, the green check mark occurs in the tag item. My totals recalculate for me all of our merchandise price, and then any additional charges, freight, installation, etc., will be in the next frame, sales tax, the total of all 3, and even the required or requested deposit at this point. If I select another one, Design Manager is going to not only use the check mark as indicating as tag, but also highlight the items in green. So it really stands out to you which items you're including on that particular proposal. Now, if I have a lot of items tagging individually, might be a little bit unnecessary, or you might fear that I miss one, or those types of things. So we've also created options to bulk tag or select items. And that's done from the tag window by clicking the tag button. And notice all of the various ways we can immediately automatically select our items. I could select everything, and Design Manager checks them all off and does all the totaling for me. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Well, I can go back in and I can untag them all. And again, Design Manager will do that for us. And then there's a whole wide variety of other ways to select items. I could do it location by location. I could do it for a particular item or item range. I could do it by status, very convenient. If I do make spec books and use specification codes, I may want to select all of the items that are 100 or 200, etc., and we can do that as well. And I might want to grab our outdoor living area. And there we are, all items immediately selected for us. Very convenient, so you don't miss an item, so you don't want to take the time to manually select them all. Very convenient. Moving on, there's a layout option. We can arrange the items within a location, or even locations within the project, how they appear on the proposal document itself. In fact, it'll also translate right into the invoice, so those any changes I make to that arrangement flow through the document lifecycle, so it's very consistent to the client. Let's take a look. We click our layout button, we get to our arrange items window. Now I have 3 locations here. I may have many more. I can quickly show all of the items within the location, either by clicking the plus sign to expand or use the expand all. And then all of my locations are quote unquote opened up or expanded, and I can see each item within them. If I have a lot of items and I'm focusing I only want to arrange the ones I have tagged or selected already, I can use the show tagged only. And now, obviously, I'm only going to be focusing on the outdoor living area. If I want to rearrange the items within a location, perhaps I want the stone bar table as the first item in the outdoor living area, just drag and drop, and there you go. Design Manager will automatically do that for you. If I have made changes and then decide I don't like them, you can always get back to the traditional sorting by clicking Undo Sort. And now item 8 is back at the bottom. Some other handy options here as well. There is the Keep Description Together selection. By default, when Design Manager is generating the proposal, it's going to simply print the item description until it gets to the natural margin, bottom margin of the physical page, and then carry over that description at the top of the next page. So you'll have a portion of the sofa description at the bottom of page 2, and then it completes on the top of page 3. That may be aesthetically unpleasing to you. So by using the Keep Description Together option, it will force the entire description not to print on the bottom of page 2, but rather begin at the top of page 3, so the entire description is unified on a singular page. If that is your preferred method of how you want your proposals to be displayed to the clients, well, back on our company information window, advanced, keep item description together on the print tab of the company advanced options would make that the default selection. Further, you have another way to control the display of items and locations, quite honestly, on a proposal by using the page break before. So let's imagine that we have all of our locations being displayed, and the outdoor living area just prints at the bottom of page 3. Well, that, again, I want that to be highlighted a bit. I could select the location itself and use the page break before option, and that will start the outdoor living area on the subsequent page. Again, keeping it notable and beginning in a unified way on a final page rather than splitting it at the bottom. And that actually is also available on the item basis as well. You could start an item on a page break before also. So there's a lot of flexibility in the way all of your information is going to be displayed. And there's a lot of ways to manipulate how it's presented to the client rather than just the default that Design Manager comes with. And let's get back, let's move that stone table back to the front. We'll click OK to save that change. Okay, layout window, very underutilized and a great way to manipulate, present the information as desired. Finally, after all of that information, now we can begin truly processing or printing the proposal. We have our items selected, and at this point, very simply, I may want to review the printer selected. Design Manager is going to show all of your printers that are available to you. In the case of proposals, the printer that is selected may not be your operating system default printer. What Design Manager will do is it'll store the printer that was last used to generate and accept a proposal. What does that mean? Well, if you have multiple print devices in your office, you may always want your proposals to go to a special color printer that prints out beautiful documents or what have you. That may not be the one that you print your less important documents to, which may be your default. Design Manager will remember that and store it independently for you. In fact, it does the same with other documents like invoices, checks, delivery tickets, etc. So it's always going to remember the proposal that you used last. To generate our proposal, all we have to do is click the OK button or just hit enter. And here we go. And by default, we get to go to our print preview of the proposal itself. I can see an exact copy of what the printed document would look like. Here's our modern format. In this case, we have our logo centered. We have our proposal title, the project code, and the proposal name that we changed. In our case, I'm showing both the billing and the site address. In the body of the document, we can see the location title, the description. There's our very professional and dramatic images, quantity and unit of measure, unit and total pricing. To skip down to the next page, I just click my next arrow. I can see the final items. I have my total pricing, my tax, the proposal total. They're highlighted conveniently in bold is the deposit that I'm requesting from the client. There's our customized remarks, and I even have optional signatures for the designer and the client to approve as well. From here, I can print out a copy, of course. I can use the email export, where I could email a copy right off from Design Manager to the email associated with the project, with the proposal as an attachment. Or I could export in case I want to save a copy on my computer or even my network. Once I've used the print preview to either physically print the proposal, save it, email it, and everything is to my liking, I simply close the print preview window, and I'm always going to be asked to accept or reject. Now, if I reject, it'll be like nothing happened. The proposal will not be processed, even if I sent it to the client, printed, etc. So all I have to do is accept. Design Manager is going to close my print preview window, close my new proposal window, and there we can see our proposal listed for us on our proposal and document window. And there we go. That is our proposal. So from here, now we start having some more options. That's how we create a brand new proposal. Click Add, select our items, and we're good to go. What are some other functionality from our proposal and documents window? Well, you can, of course, reprint an existing proposal. Reprinting is making an exact copy of the proposal as it currently exists. This is different than editing the proposal, which we'll discuss next. If you've not made any changes that you want to have reflected to the proposal, best practices, do not edit. You can inadvertently make unwanted changes to the proposal by updating pricing information, removing or adding an item accidentally, etc. If you just want to make a copy or send a copy, just use the reprint, which is right here. Now, let's select a different project as an example, and we'll look at some of the reprint functions for us. So if I want to print a new copy or send a new copy to the client of Proposal 1 for the master bedroom and wine cellar, notice there's that name or phase. How do I know what's on that proposal? Because I did change it upon creating the proposal. So I don't need to print this. I have the name or phase there, so I can immediately see what was included on that item. By hitting the reprint button, we get to our reprint proposal window, and I have some additional functionality here. I can use the format that I've already generated and saved, but I could select any of the others as well. So you can print a proposal in one format, reprint it in another. So you could have a proposal format and a set of tear sheets for the same items and the same proposal number if desired. Email is going to bring up the email window rather than the print preview, as we just saw. Pictures, of course, you can, as we can on our new proposal window when creating one, we can optionally include or not include pictures. When reprinting, perhaps the client's already received the initial proposal. You can save some space, of course, by not showing them, but it does have a nice dramatic professional effect if you do use them. If I change my style from modern to a different option by using the update style, it will then save this proposal in the updated format as well. If I don't want to save it, just uncheck update style. Speaking of updating, we can use the update remarks. Perhaps I have some additional information I want to communicate to the client about this particular proposal. Or I just want to make something a little bit more clear. I could perhaps change my spacing here, and I want to bold my first sentence. If I use my update remarks option, and now click OK, you can see our copy here. Let's jump to the last page. I can see I now have that additional spacing, and I have that remark sentence. Let's make that a little bit bigger so we can see in bold versus the remainder not being in bold. And since I use the update remarks option, if we go to reprint again, we can see that my changes are now saved with the proposal as well. Show actual deposits, a very, very handy tool. What this will do is it can be used to provide the client with an accounting of all the deposits received and applied to the proposal, while also providing the approximate future balance due. So perhaps we want to switch our format from modern to modern with deposits. We'll leave our update style selected, and I'm going to use my show actual deposits option. Click OK here. One, notice the subtle change in the way the proposal is displayed. I now have columns for sales tax and deposit for each item, so I can see how much I requested of those items. And in the totals region, let's quickly jump down there, I can see my original proposal amount and then all of my deposits listed. I have one as an example here, but I could have as many as were received from the client, and the total, and now the estimated future balance due. So it's providing a sort of accounting statement of the proposal, even though I'm not into the stages of invoicing, etc. Very handy to provide back for the client, and almost works as a de facto receipt. When those funds come in, you can return the proposal or email it to the client, showing that you've recorded them and what they're going to be estimated to owe in the future. Okay, reprinting, lots of tools there, and notice that my style has indeed updated to the modern with deposits. So to contrast what we did with reprinting, unlike reprinting, you're going to edit the proposal to reflect any changes necessary to convey to the client. Pricing changes, scope of the proposal changes by adding or removing items. Any changes that were subsequently made in the specifications already on items that are on our proposal will be automatically reflected during the edit process, as I was saying before. So if I've made changes to the pricing, added freight, changed the price, what have you, when I edit, those specification prices will update the proposal as well. So let's jump to another project here, and let's make some changes to our patio furnishings. So if I want to make some changes or reflect changes, I now use the edit button. Notice a subtle difference. Design Manager's now titling this edit proposal. I'm not making a new proposal, I'm editing proposal, and it'll even tell me the proposal number there. It's always going to be in quote unquote show all mode, so that's not even a selection. And I can see all of the items selected that are on proposal 2. So if you notice the subtle change in the window, you're not adding a proposal, you're editing a proposal. Now I can also, if I made changes in the specifications, they're going to be automatically reflected for me here as well. But as we saw before, I can edit the proposal and actually edit an item right here. So perhaps I want to change our sofa here. And again, let's update that cost as we did on our Hilson project. Maybe we need to add some freight too. We can do that. $100 seems reasonable. Price is now $12.50 versus $9.75. Click OK. And we can see that being automatically updated for us as well. Now, I may want to convey or at least alert myself that I've made some changes. So I've seen as best practices to put in a little addition onto the name or phase. I may want to call it like revision 1 or something to that effect. Now I know that I have made some changes to it. Click OK. And we can see our sofa's updated. And now we have our freight listed for us as well. Just like when we're processing a new proposal, I then close my print preview window and I want to be sure to accept. If I don't like my changes and I want to retain the initial proposal values, hit reject. It's like it never happened. Click accept. And now we can see the updated proposal amount as well. Remember, those changes that we just made are going to be reflected in our specifications. We're literally in that window. And if we go down to that particular project, here's our sofa, there's the changes that we just made, our price and our freight. Okay. Very important. Now, often you may have received a deposit and already recorded it against the proposal. Design Manager allows you to edit a proposal even if a deposit has been applied against it. You can even add or remove items. A Design Manager will automatically redistribute that deposit as necessary. So it's going to take that fixed amount that you've given and redistribute it to the items based upon their deposit requested amount. Now, understanding the mechanisms of how Design Manager handles deposits and retainers, quite honestly, is very important. So I strongly recommend taking some time and reviewing our Accounting Course 1, Client Deposits and Retainers, where all of that functionality is explored in great detail. Very important webinar to describe all of those processes. Okay. More additional functionality in the proposal window. Let's jump back over there. You can use the proposal as a almost a request for progress payment document. Very commonly, a design firm may want to get, I don't know, 50% as an initial deposit, and that could be followed by another 25% later in the design process to keep cash flow at an acceptable level. Design Manager has a mechanism to do that as well. Let's hop over to our Hilson project here. And let's say, okay, so proposal 1 for our game room, we can see, and here's a great chance to explore some of the columns listed on our proposal and document window where we have the proposal number, So Design Manager can have up to 9,999 proposals in a single project. The date of the proposal, the name or phase, again, for the third time now, changing that makes it very identifiable what's included on the proposal just from this window itself. The status of the items. Now, items can certainly progress through the design process at different speeds. If the items are at different statuses, the status of the proposal would say mixed. The format or style, as we discussed, the total amount, the requested deposit amount, and focusing on the game room proposal, we can see we requested $23,877 and change, but the client gave us an even $23,000 on their Visa. So there is a difference in what we actually received versus what we requested. I can even see the check number, or in this case, Visa was entered as the client check, the date those funds were received. I could see if it's been invoiced, how much of that deposit was utilized or refunded, and how much is currently available. I can even make an entire proposal inactive or complete right from here. This all gets us to the concept of our additional deposit request as well. So I've received $23,000 for this proposal, but perhaps I need an additional quarter of that amount or what have you. I can make an additional deposit request or progress payment request by editing the proposal. And notice, an additional deposit request tab is now available only on the edit window. Jump over to that tab and I could put in manually a particular amount, or if I wanted to get 25%, I could use the calculate button, enter in the percentage, and Design Manager will calculate it for me. Now, what this is 25% of the total proposed amount. It's not the balance of the proposed less the requested deposit. It's going to take the percentage of the entire proposal itself. And I could certainly just ask for an even 10,000 if desired as well. The date of the additional proposal required, again, no fiscal activity there, just the date that we're asking the client for the additional funds, and the option to show the actual deposits received so far. As best practices, I like to do so. It'll show to the client, so we're in agreement of what funds I've received and recorded against this proposal, in addition to asking for the additional funds. Click the OK button here. And let's review how the document itself has subtly changed. Notice we automatically say deposit required appended to the proposal title for you. We're going to see all of our items. Scroll through. We're using the show actual deposits just like we did on the reprint option, so we can see there's the $23,000 that we received from the client on their Visa card and the date, the total, and there is our additional deposit required or requested figure as well. So we've received 23 and now I'm asking for an additional 10 as well. And we can accept the proposal deposit request, and upon doing so, my initial requested deposit remains. That was fixed and immutable. But now in our additional deposit required, I can see my my flat 10,000 that I asked for and the date upon doing so. So you can almost see a lineage or a chronological progression of this proposal, particularly in the accounting areas where I've requested, received funds, and now I'm asking for more. And if that $10,000 is received from the client, my received total will increase as well, as one would expect. So proposal, lots of flexibility and a very powerful tool, not just to initially propose or estimate goods and services to the client, but can be really used throughout the process as well. So speaking of going through that process, Design Manager is going to have a lot of tools besides what we see here to observe the financial and logistical status of the proposal, quite honestly. Besides seeing all of the requested amounts, received, check dates, invoicing status, those types of things at a glance from the proposal window itself, there is the very sort of underutilized but powerful tool of the proposal status window. How do we get there? Well, just highlight the proposal on your proposal and documents window and click the status button along your bottom toolbar. This is an excellent tool to review the overall progress of the items on the proposal from the client side, really, and it allows you to quickly analyze the subset of project items that are only on a proposal. I may have hundreds of items in this particular project, but I'm focusing just on the game room at this from this window. Now, immediately upon going into my proposal status window, just by the color of each of the items, I know that none of these have yet been invoiced in full. Why? Design Manager has them highlighted in red and even says 0 out of 6 items are invoiced in full. Items in red are not invoiced and maybe need to review. So visually, I can see in an instant how some of the items are progressing. Either they've not been invoiced or they have been invoiced in full. I've got a multitude of functions here. I can globally set the status for all the items on this proposal right from this window by simply selecting the desired status and clicking the set button, and Design Manager would change them all from need to ordered to ordered. Just like that. So if they are all completed to my satisfaction, I can mark them all as complete. Or if they've all been approved, I can mark them all as such as well. So you can globally update the status for all items on a single proposal. The deposit view, there's a lot of information on this window. Let's scroll that out a little bit, where we can see the location code and name, the reference number, the description of the item. We just talked about the status, of course, quantity, the estimated price of the item and the sales tax, if applicable, the total, what we requested, and what we received. Remember, we only got 23,000 versus our 23,877. So Design Manager proportionally allocated only proportionated the 23,000. So each of the items got a little bit less than what was requested. The check number, in this case, it was paid via Visa. I'd even see my invoicing information from here. What's been invoiced, the total amount of the invoice tax in total, the invoice number, application of deposit, etc. If I don't need to focus on all of that information, I can use the deposit view and really just focus on, hey, have I received deposit? Have I applied any? And what's available? Sort of makes the a little bit more narrow focus on how is the item, how is the deposit that we've received from the client being both received and ultimately utilized and what's currently available. Lastly, you have an ability to manually allocate received deposit. Now, Design Manager allows you to forcibly redistribute the available deposit, which is particularly helpful if the proposal has invoiced items. That's going to prevent items from being removed in order to reallocate their received deposit. Or the client may simply instruct you to use deposit that they have given on one item to the balance that will be applied on another item. With that power comes great responsibility. Design Manager is intended to allow the deposit to naturally flow from item to item. This sort of supersedes all the checks and balances that we have initially contained, but it is worth noting. So imagine perhaps that the client instructs me to move the deposit received from item 14 and apply it onto the sheepskin. I can do so. I can use the manually allocate received deposit option, which then gives me functionality along the bottom of the window, including what I've received, how much is allocated or applied to or received to the items, or and the balance of the two, the total unallocated. If I want to indicate that deposit is being removed or changed from a particular item, I select it on the proposal status window, hit the edit deposit. That gets me to my edit deposit item. It'll alert me how much has been received, what was requested, and what's available. So if the client insists to move this 544.89 from item 14, I can do so by setting the received to 0, which automatically makes the available 0. And by clicking OK, notice I see my received amount. I've only allocated a portion this far, and I have 544.89 unallocated. Design Manager will warn me upon leaving it in such a state. These funds are not applied to any item right now, and that could be a dangerous situation. So I want to immediately then move it to the sheepskin by highlighting that, clicking the edit deposit, increasing my received if my math serves, and we'll see if I'm right. Because my total unallocated goes to 0, my total allocated matches what I've received, and I've now manually manipulated the amount that I have on the sheepskin. And now if I attempt to close, I'll not be warned because I have successfully allocated properly. Proposal status, powerful tool to show how each of the items on the proposal are progressing through the design cycle, whether they've been invoiced, the ability to see the deposit, whether it's been refunded, etc. Very underutilized and yet powerful window. I also have several reports that are proposal based. Most particularly is our proposal listing report, which is accessed from your project reports. Go into your project management, under your order tracking, and you can see our proposal listing. If this is a document that you find helpful, be sure to then click the add to favorites so you can easily access it off of your favorite menu. Now, this report is going to show us, we're focusing solely on proposals themselves, not the items on those proposals. And we can see all of them by project, by designer. I can group all of my proposals by designer, and the proposal contract analysis, which we'll see in a second. I can focus on whether on active proposals, inactive, or very commonly used is I want to look at all my completed proposals. Further, what stage is the deposit being, what stage of the proposal in reference to a deposit? Show everything, show me proposals that have no deposit or have deposit. Let's take a look. So I may want to see everything for which I've received a deposit. Remember, when looking at reports, the ranges are only used to narrow the focus or narrow the scope of the document. If I leave them all blank, it's going to show me everything. And that's perfect for our example. So show me all proposals by project that have a deposit received. Click OK. Design Manager does its crunching, and there we go. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And we can see, group by project, all of our proposals, how much we requested, what we've received, estimated price, sales tax, and total. Because we're using proposals with deposit received, there's going to be a value in all of those received deposit categories and columns. Flip that around. I may want to see proposals where I haven't gotten a deposit. Well, why not? What can I do for the client to facilitate those funds coming in? So if we look at proposals without a deposit received, there we go. And it's going to be our one proposal that we created for our outdoor living area because we have not yet received those funds. Validity on both ways to analyze those proposals. Another format, as I said, is the proposal contract analysis. Very powerful tool to monitor the progression of the proposal as a whole from the financial standpoint as it moves to completion. What do I mean by that? Let's take a look. Make this a bit bigger again. So we can see the proposal total price, the deposit we've received, the invoiced amount, how much has been invoiced to date. the percentage of the invoice, in other words, out of the total proposal price, what how much has been invoiced out of that total amount. So we can see I have a proposal of $2,096.70 for the bedroom window treatment that I've invoiced just a little bit under that, so I'm 97% complete. In the case of the master bedroom and wine cellar, my proposal price and invoiced amount are the same, so I'm fully invoiced. My application of deposit, the balance of the invoice, and I can even see invoice payments here as well. So Design Manager is going to review all of the items to see if the final funds have come in on the invoice itself and the balance due. Design Manager is then going to estimate the payments, whether or not it's been underpaid or overpaid. So we can see all the funds coming in here as well. So a very handy tool to track the progression of the proposal as a whole, all the way through the financial cycle, not just the status of the items, whether or not they've been ordered, etc., but have we invoiced it? Have we received payment? And what does the client currently owe us? Okay, and with that, that brings us to the end of our somewhat lengthy discussion today on proposals. We reviewed all aspects of creating, editing, monitoring proposals in Design Manager. I hope to familiarize new users of the Pro Cloud out there and hopefully point out some additional features that to our Design Manager veterans that you may not have known in the past. And I thank you all for joining the discussion today and hope you attend another of our free webinars in the near future. Take care and have a great day.